Hey, everybody, and welcome to Brothers-In-Flaws. This is our Sportscast Ep.2. Sorry for the delay. We kind of had some technical difficulties, but we think we got everything worked out. Cunado is actually reporting from a different location than normal, so he was having to get his stuff set up. But I think we're good. So, how you doing this morning, Cunado?
Oh, so far so good, Normie. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm looking forward to some football games today. We got two today, two tomorrow on the slate. So should be a good another good weekend of NFL football.
Yeah, I'm super pumped. Full disclosure, for one of the games that we'll probably brush on today, as a Rams fan, I'm going to be a bit of a homer on that one. But just letting you and all the folks out there listening know, I do have a lean on that game as far as fandom goes.
I hear you. Well, our topics today mainly we're going to talk about the college football national championship review. We're going to review the NFL Wildcard Week, and we're also going to preview the NFL Divisionals. And I'm going to be in the same boat as Cunado when we talk about this college football national championship because I am a huge Alabama fan. So it's been an exciting week for me. But let's get into our first topic, the national championship. So, Cunado, what were your overall game thoughts?
Honestly, it's pretty simple. It was just a beatdown. One of those teams was not like the other. We kind of brushed on that might be the case last week. I kind of had some hope for Ohio State because of the way they handled Clemson. But once they actually got down to it, Bama was just better in all three phases of the game, and not by a little, but by a lot.
Yeah, that's what it really seemed like to me as well. I was still, I mean, watching Alabama all year, even when we were up 21 points, I was still thinking, okay, we've got to score more. We got to score more because Ohio State they still had the players and they still have that offense of where that kind of NFL style offense where they could score a lot of points really quickly. But so for me, I was still tense up until we finally got the ball and we're kneeling it.
Yeah. That is one of my big takeaways from the game is the heart for Landon Dickerson and Jalen Waddle, especially those two guys. I mean, it kind of seemed like everybody on the Bama football team this year was all bought in, and it really did feel like a team as opposed to a bunch of individuals just playing the same sport on the same field. It really did feel, and I'm not a homer for this team. In fact, I actually root for the rival, but they felt like a team all year long, and I thought that made a big impact on how they played together. But a lot of people said that there's a lot of pros and stuff tweeting and on social media that Waddle shouldn't be out there. First off, the Andrews medical group that takes care of the Bama players, if they've given him the all clear, then I listen to them. They're the best in the business. Secondly, it was more soft tissue stuff from what I've heard that was bothering him while he was limping. He actually said there was no pain. It just wouldn't do the stuff that he's used to. I mean, he's still very fresh off that injury, but he had two big catches, moved the sticks a couple of times. I thought it was really gutsy performance. I really appreciated him getting out there and doing that. And I also like the fact that it still means something. It's still like, yes, he's going to be a first-round draft pick no matter what. He'll probably be a top 15, 16 type receiver, if not, top 10. And he was still out there gutting it out, and I really appreciated that. And then Landon Dickerson, I think that he actually had to twist the medical staff's arm to let him even suit up and then take those, just victory formation snaps. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I remember watching it and on the sidelines, and they actually panned over to Saban with Dickerson, and then Saban grabs him and says, "Go in." And I thought that was just, I mean that was kind of like the cherry on the top of the cake of this whole year of him working so hard, having that devastating injury, but being able to finish out the national championship game and the year. And same thing with Waddle. My thing is, the pros, like you said, the pros were saying and tweeting that he shouldn't have been out there. That's his decision. If he wants to do that, that's up to him. And like you said, Andrew Sports Medicine is pretty much the best in the business. I mean, that's why one of the best programs in college football uses them. I mean, it is nice that they are located, in Birmingham, Alabama. So, but I just really think that he really wanted that opportunity to play because he wasn't there in that 2017 national championship season when Devontae Smith's freshman year, and it was finally his first national championship to possibly win. So I really do think it was a gutsy thing, and even if he wasn't 100%, just the name alone, that's Jalen Waddle. You're not going to not cover him. Even if he is looking like he's limping, you're still going to have to spend manpower to cover him on defense. So I really, it was a really gutsy thing he did. And I'm really glad he did it, because that's what he wanted to do. It would be different if he didn't want to do it, but they kind of pushed him into it. But you could really tell that's what he wanted to do. So, all right.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, you can. I was about to move on, but you got one last thing.
Oh no. Just gonna agree with you on that. His decision, and he wanted to be part of a national championship, and I can't tout that enough. That being part of a national championship and being a competitor like that, I think not only does it mean something personally and for fans watching the game, especially fans like us who like both college and the professional game, but I think it means something to the professional team scouting him. I think that he might have raised his draft stock, honestly.
Yeah, it showed that heart, that determination, and that he will push through adversity. And even if he isn't, feeling 100%, he's going to go out there and give as his 100% that he can give. So, all right, let's move on.
Absolutely.
So we got all right. So the good, the bad, and the ugly for Alabama in this game. What's your good, bad, and ugly for them?
Well, for me, the good was pretty much everything. The bad and the ugly was pretty much nothing. The bad, maybe Jamie, Battle getting ejected for targeting. Letter of the law, it was a targeting. I understand that. And then Devontae Smith, excuse me, Devontae Smith dislocating his finger and not being able to go back in. He did plenty. I mean, 215 yards and 3 touchdowns in a half. I think he'll be just all right with the stat line that he put up. But those would be the only things that were negative for Alabama personally. And then everything else looked great. They were dominant on the offensive and defensive lines. Their receivers, crisp, smooth routes, blocked the edges real well. I didn't see much negative from Alabama, honestly.
Yeah, I really didn't much either. Mainly good. Offense was their offense. And they did what they do. They put up a lot of yards. They put up a lot of points. And a good, I would say, would be the defense. They actually, they did their job. They were disciplined. They got beat on a couple things and kind of let Ohio State get a lot of yards, but they never really broke. One of the bad things I would say would be Mac Jones's fumble. I think that looks really bad because I know I was watching the broadcast on SEC Network with Eli Gold, and And side note, they should do that all year long because that's awesome. I think they should do that with pretty much every team, but especially Alabama. No bias whatsoever coming from me. But the Mac Jones fumble was to me a kind of a bad spot, and really not for Alabama as a whole, but mainly for Mac Jones himself. Because in the main broadcast, Kirk Herbstreit had just talked about how, oh, well, Mac Jones doesn't get pressured very much. Well, they finally got that pressure on him, and he ends up fumbling the ball. And that's one of those you really can't put on the defense. I mean, they ended up scoring and tying at 14 all at that point. But that, like I said, you really can't put that one on the defense. He doesn't fumble there. They more than likely go down and score some points, at least 3. And really ugly wise, I didn't really see much ugly. They were very respectful. They got I didn't really see any jawing back and forth. So those would be my things. Now in the bad one, I will that targeting, it was bad. And when I first saw it, it kind of looked like he threw his hands up into the guy's chest because I was looking from the angle from the back. But when you get behind the angle from behind battle, yes, he definitely did it. That is the play they are trying to take out of football, and I do understand that. Um, it was pretty interesting at the halftime on the SEC network side. They had Roman Harper on, and he was kind of talking about how come in amateur sports that when that play happens, they kick them out of the game, so they get ejected from the game, and they can't play the next half of the next game if it occurs in the second half. But in NFL, it's only just a 15-yard penalty, and I think that's something they really need to look into. Me personally, with the targeting thing, I do understand the ejection thing because that is something that they really do need to crack down on and get away from that play, because not only is it dangerous for the receiver, it is equally as dangerous for the defender going in there. So I kind of do see an ejection. I don't understand the getting suspended for the next game. I think that has always been just really harsh. But luckily his occurred in the first half, so it won't carry over into next season. Yeah, that was about all. I really didn't see much ugly from Alabama.
Yeah, no, same. And as far as that penalty goes, and what you're talking about as far as their policing of it, it does seem a little bit harsh to me as well. And you kind of want to keep as much human element in the game as you can as far as refereeing goes, but at the same time, that makes things dicey. But maybe some kind of a committee review on whether it was intentionally malicious or something like that to maybe mitigate the suspension for a game moving forward might be something they want to look into. I don't know, but I agree. It seems a little bit harsh sometimes, especially for, I would say, Battle's targeting call this week and then the previous week for Skalski in the Clemson game. Either one looked malicious. They were good football plays in a different era. But, yeah, I don't think that either one were intentionally trying to hurt anybody.
Yeah. And I think another element, too, that goes into it is when you look at it live, you kind of really can't see it, but pretty much any play is slowed down enough, it's going to look a lot worse. But also, the one drive where I think it was right after halftime when Alabama drove down and got the field goal. Well, on that third down, they passed it to Najee Harris, and that defender came up and hit Najee Harris. And I've looked at the replay, and it looks like he goes head-to-head to Najee Harris, but Najee Harris is a brick wall, and the defender just bounces right off of him. So it kind of looks like, too, it depends on, does the receiver kind of fall down or gets hit? Because the other one, the tight end, he immediately goes down. So does that have something to play in it as well? Just because the receiver did fall down or anything, he still hit him head to head, and it looked like crown of the helmet. And that's something they need to kind of, if they're going to have this rule, they need to call it both ways. Just because he doesn't fall down doesn't mean it's not targeting.
Yeah, absolutely. You see that throughout sports at every level. And all sports as well. The big guy gets called for more fouls than the little guy. The offensive player gets called for less fouls than the defensive player, etc. It it doesn't get called fairly because oftentimes it gets called more about the optics of it rather than the actual violation of the rule.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the Ohio State. So what's your good, bad, and ugly for Ohio State?
You know, they didn't have a ton to be ashamed of, I don't think. I thought they still looked probably like the second best team in the nation. They just met the buzzsaw that was the first best team in the nation. Fields didn't look great, but he didn't look awful. There was nothing good, bad, or ugly for me for them other than it all felt very. They looked pedestrian in all facets of the game versus what they were playing. Nothing really stood out. I was bummed as far as one of the bads for them that Trey Sermon got hurt literally on the first snap of the game. I would have liked to see what he could do. But, Master Teague didn't play bad in the backup role that he came out and he still ran well. So I guess that's kind of a good. I don't think that Sermon would have done much more, but based on what he had been doing, building all that momentum for the last 3 games coming into this game, I was looking forward to see what he could do against an Alabama defense. And that's about it. I don't have much for either team. They both looked good. It just looked like one was just the best team in the nation. And I think me and you talked about it last week. Alabama has looked like the best team in the nation all year long, so this isn't really a surprise. It just kind of played out exactly how – there was a little bit of drama moving forward since, Bama struggled a little in the SEC championship, really put the clamps down on Notre Dame the next week. But then that week, Ohio State really turns the switch on and really beats the hell out of Clemson. You think that this might be a game, but then when, coin flip is over, ball is kicked, just one of these teams didn't look like the other. And that's basically all I've got.
Alrighty. For me, I think, honestly, the best thing to come out of the game for Ohio State was the fact that when Ryan Day was in his post-game interview, he didn't make excuses. He could have easily said, we had COVID problems. Trey Sherman got hurt. Justin Fields was hurt. He didn't make excuses. He just said, hey, we got beat, or basically said that. And I think that was one of the best things that actually came out on the Ohio State side is, hey, they lost, and we're not going to make excuses about it. We put a team out there, and our team wasn't as good as the other team, and it showed. And I think that was really classy move. I'm not a huge Ohio State fan. I've never been a huge Ohio State fan. But I do want to give him credit on that. For that was a very classy thing. Even if deep inside or in private, he will say, yeah, that it was bull crap. We had this happen, all that. But in the outside world, he's not making excuses. He's taken the loss and he's looking to move forward. And I think that was the best thing for them. Another good thing would be Justin Fields. He didn't really play as well as he did against Clemson, but he was visibly in pain the entire time. And for him to go out there and just be that gutsy and be in the position he is, and he was still running the ball. He still got a lot of rushing yards. Um, I think that was really good for them. And like with Waddle, I think it does kind of raise his draft stock of, hey, this guy was hurt, but he still played. He still played well. Uh, the bad for them was, for me, would be the Trey Sherman, him coming out. That was pretty bad for them. I was actually kind of disappointed in that as well, even though I'm an Alabama fan, and it probably would have been a closer game with him in there. Uh, I was still kind of disappointed because I would have liked to see that. I don't like seeing players get hurt. No, uh, nobody really does, and even if it is the other team, I don't like seeing that. I want our team to play the other team at their best, and I think that was kind of a just happening in the first play of the game. I think that really kind of set the tone early. Even though with the other guy, I can't think of his name right this second, coming in, Master Teague, with Master Teague coming
Yeah.
in and him playing a pretty good game himself. But the ugly, I really didn't. There wasn't really anything ugly. Again, there wasn't really that much like chippiness. No, the back talk. Both teams seemed pretty respectable towards each other. Kind of after that um, that targeting with Battle and their tight end. The tight end kind of got up a little mad, and I totally understand that. But I know Battle went on Twitter later to kind of say, "Hey, I didn't do this intentionally. This is just the heat of the moment kind of thing." But even then, there wasn't really. It didn't seem like there was much trash talking on both sides. It was very classy on both sides. So I really don't have much of an ugly for Ohio State, and I think going into our next topic. So our way too early college football playoff prediction for next year. So what four teams just right now do you think are making it next year?
This is where college football kind of has a problem. And the thing is, I think the only way to solve the problem is for other teams to catch up. I've seen some articles about trying to create parity by breaking up the dynasties that are in power. But as of right now, I would be pretty shocked if it's not going to be Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. I know that Alabama still has to play the SEC, and anything can happen. And then there's still Georgia, who can play spoiler or get in themselves on the east side, in Florida. But although Florida looks real shaky, they've just got a lot of off-the-field stuff swirling. It seems like there's some cracks in the foundation for them right this second, which maybe they'll get that fixed, straightened out. I don't know. It doesn't look like anybody's catching or touching Ohio State in the Big Ten. If they play a full Big Ten schedule next year, maybe Indiana improves a little bit and gives them a game again. I don't know. But the way that they manhandled everybody else and where the other programs were this year, it looks like they're the clear-cut favorites for the Big Ten again. And Clemson and the ACC, that's just a joke. I mean, they might as well not even play a regular season, honestly, the way that schedule goes for them, especially now that Notre Dame won't be in the ACC anymore. And I don't think that there's a real contender from the Pac-12 right now. I mean, nobody looks great. There's a couple teams that look kind of okay, maybe borderline good, but nobody looks great. And then the Big 12, that is probably the most dicey conference out of the Power 5 right now, because Iowa State plays spoiler, and they are a legit team that you have to take seriously week in and week out. Texas wasn't bad. I mean, they weren't great, but they weren't bad. And so now we'll see what Sarkisian's doing over there. So, and they've still got, the cupboards are full of talent. So it's not like he's going to have to start from scratch. But the way that Oklahoma came on towards the end of the season and the way that Spencer Rattler finished the season, I would still say that they're the favorites. They looked really sharp, really crisp in their defense. Number one rush defense in the nation this year, I believe.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're 3. Anyways, I know that uncharacteristically good defense from a Big 12 defense and from Oklahoma and Lincoln Riley. And if they can sustain that moving forward, I feel like it's going to be those 4 teams. I would be shocked if I don't have at least 75% of that right.
Yeah. So my prediction is basically, the same as yours. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma. SEC wise, I don't think Florida's going to be near as good. Their quarterback coming up, Emory, he showed some good things, but Florida's defense has not progressed since Dan Mullen's been there. He's still got the same defensive coordinator. I don't know why that guy's still there. They've done nothing defensive wise, and their defense has always killed them. And like with this year SEC championship game, if they had any sort of defense, that game is it. The points wise, it was close, but if you actually watched the game, it was one of those kind of like last year with Alabama LSU. Alabama controlled the game basically the entire time, and their defense just really just let them down. Georgia, I think that Georgia's got some sanctions swirling around them off the field as well. Some recruiting things. That's going to be something that we need to watch closer. But I do think with JT Daniels coming back, you do have a veteran coming back. And Georgia's defense is always going to be good. Kirby Smart knows his defense. He knows his defenses. He's a great recruiter. So their defense is always going to be there. I think Georgia is going to be the opposite of Florida. It's always going to be their offense that's kind of weighing them down. But I would say Georgia, if any one of those two could be a spoiler or outright come in and win it themselves. Big Ten, like you said, Ohio State, it's still the big one, as some people call it. Indiana did show some good signs this year, but with a full schedule, how would that have played out with Indiana? We just don't know. Pac-12 is a complete and utter joke, like you said. Yeah, especially after this year when the Pac-12 champion wasn't even supposed to be in the Pac-12 game. It was supposed to be Washington USC. But Washington had too many COVID problems and couldn't play it, so Oregon went in, and then Oregon beat the other team. That I don't know what's going on in the Pac-12, but it is definitely a joke. ACC, again, it's still, at least they played full schedules. I don't see North Carolina coming out being a big contender. They're usually one of those teams, they have one really good year and then they don't have a good year for a while. I don't see them kind of continuing on, especially after getting beat by Texas A&M. Maybe Florida State can get its crap together, but I just really don't see it by next year. So I think it is going to be Clemson again, and they got a quarterback coming back who's got some big games under his belt. So I think they're going to be pretty much right back where they are. I think Brett Venables is going to have that defense ready. And then getting into the Big 12, definitely Oklahoma. Their defense has definitely improved. I think Lincoln Riley has finally seen the light of we actually have to have more than 11 just warm bodies out there if we're going to compete in the college football in the college football playoff. We can have the most explosive offense, but we got to at least be able to stop them 2 or 3 times. So I think they're really building up that defense, and it did really look good against Florida in the Cotton Bowl. But on the flip side of that, Florida didn't have like 3 of their starting like pass catchers that game. So was it really that Oklahoma's defense was that good? But overall through their season, they did look pretty good. And like you said, you got Iowa State. Iowa State, man, I love that team. I don't know what it is because they are that smaller team, and they always do have that potential to, and they're always like right on that cusp of just, but they can't win that big game. But I think if that coach stays there and keeps building that program, he's finally going to get them over that hump. I feel like. I think that just the football culture at Ohio or Iowa State, I think it's just, like kind of like Alabama of old, where they're not used to being in that spotlight, and they kind of choke when it comes to the big games. But I think if he stays there, they're going to end up getting over that hump sooner or later. I don't feel like it's going to be next year though, and I think Texas is going to win some games that they shouldn't next year, but I don't think they're going to win enough to make it next year. I think Sark will surprise some teams, and it could be Oklahoma that, he goes in there and surprises, but I don't think they're going to be ready by next year.
So. Yeah, 100% agreed. I think both Iowa State and Texas are about a year off from being able to push. I mean, or from being able to legit win. But yeah, what Matt Campbell has done at Iowa State is absolutely incredible. I was really pulling for him for the Auburn job. Didn't seem like there was even a lot of smoke coming from that fire. But he has done an excellent job, and I agree. If he sticks around for a while with Iowa State, I think that it is inevitable that they will win at least a Big 12 championship, and who knows, make some noise in the college football playoffs.
Yep, like I said, I'm always rooting for them. I get tired of. I'm sure it's like other conferences or who were always rooting against Alabama. I'm always rooting against Oklahoma.
Yeah, I understand that. I like Lincoln Riley, though. I like Lincoln Riley. And go back to what you were saying about Ryan Day, they both seem like pretty classy dudes, pretty easy to like, even from us, from Alabama, who, like, even as an Auburn fan, no one likes Ohio State. No one likes Oklahoma. Both programs have had administration and coaches and players take shots at the SEC. And, there's a reason why we chant SEC, SEC, and all that shit. I mean, we do kind of stick together, even though sometimes on Saturdays we hate each other's guts. But Ryan Day and Lincoln Riley make it a lot easier to like those programs, and they're both just excellent coaches.
Yes, they both really are. So let's move on to move on up to the NFL. So last weekend we had the wildcard round, and let's start off with the first game from last week, and that was the Colts at the Bills. So the Bills ended up winning 27-24, and it was a close game, and it was a fun game. What were your thoughts on it? I'm not sure if you were able to watch any of that game, but just even in the aftermath, what were your things on it?
I'm not super surprised that the Colts played it close. They are an excellent team. And as much as I respect Phillip Rivers and he had a really good season, I think that they are an elite quarterback away from being a true contender. And they were a true contender this They were a really good football team all year long, but the roster they've built in Indianapolis is just really, really good, really solid. Arguably the best offensive line in professional football right now. So not super surprised that they slowed down the red hot Bills. Everyone thought the Bills were the best team in football coming into this game, the way that they've been playing of late. I think they'd won 11 out of the last 12 games or something like that, maybe 10 of the last 11. And then Josh Allen, they had a lot of balance. They were playing really, really good football. So some people thought that this might be a blowout, but that the Bills would win it pretty handily. So not super surprised that the Colts kept it close, but also I think that the best team in that game won. What it now gives pause to, though, is when the Bills see the Ravens, another red-hot team, another team that can really, really run the football and control the clock, how will they be, moving forward? But all in all, no real shock from this game.
Yeah, I thought that the Bills were going to blow them out, but then I really looked at it and really remembered it again. The Colts had a really good defense this year. They had a great running attack this year. And after thinking about that and then kind of watching the game, it was pretty close. I mean, the whole game it was. And for me, I think the turning point in the game was the Colts had the ball inside the 10, first to goal, and they were not able to score any points off of it. They ended up going for it on fourth down. It was right before halftime. And then the Bills got the ball, and I think with 45 seconds left, ended up going down and scoring. That was definitely the turning point in that game. And, Josh Allen throwing having 124 pass yards and 54 rushing yards was, definitely the difference in the game. The only thing with the Bills moving forward, they did not have Josh Allen with his 54 rushing yards he was the highest rusher in that game, and that doesn't bode well going later into the playoffs. You have to have some kind of run game, especially once you get ahead, so you can really bleed that clock. Because in the NFL, I mean, they can, teams can score 14 points in a matter of minutes. So, I'm kind of worried about that, and that might be the chink in their armor. And it didn't help too with Zach Moss being hurt, and he is out for the rest of the playoffs. But they found a way to win, and we'll get to see them either today or tomorrow. I think today they're the mid game.
Yeah, they're the evening today.
So, alrighty. So let's move on to the Rams at the Seahawks. So the Rams ended up winning 30-20, and the Rams are your team. So what were your thoughts on that game?
The thing is, this game scared the hell out of me. The season split, they're divisional rivals, so we went 1-1. Already played them twice in the regular season. And then we were starting John Wolford, who a lot of people don't know, came out of Wake Forest, played in the AAF for the Arizona Hotshots, I believe, and got signed as the number 2 quarterback for us. He'd already played previously for Week 17, actually looked really good. I was really excited about him starting the game. He's mobile. He has a decent enough arm. He doesn't have the arm talent that Jared Goff does, but I think he's a better decision maker. And I think that he's more consistent with his placement of the ball. Plus, the cat can move. I mean, he can scramble. He's just a little scrappy fella. But he got hurt within the first 2 or 3 drives. I can't remember. He didn't get to play very much. Goff has to go in there with a busted thumb and kind of limped the offense around for as far as passing. I think he only threw for 154 yards and right around 50% completion percentage. That's not great going forward. But Cam Akers looked awesome. The offensive line got Andrew Whitworth back healthy at left tackle. They were opening up holes. Akers was running with explosion. And the Rams defense is the best defense in professional football. And they got it done. And that would be my biggest takeaway is that the Rams, nothing about them is very pretty right now, but they get the job done. Also, huge shout out to the defensive line other than Aaron Donald, because he goes down early in the third quarter and they continue to harass Russell Wilson. Brockers and Floyd and St. Joseph Day, like all of them, they're just a really good unit. And then on the outside, Jalen Ramsey, I think right now is the best cornerback in the league. Really excited about the game today and what he can do against the Packers.
Alrighty. Yeah, this one shocked me. I haven't kept up with the Rams very much. I did know that they had lost to the Jets, which is the worst team in the league, probably.
Yep.
And at that point, I thought, okay, this, even if they make it to the playoffs, they ain't going far. So this one really shocked me. But yeah, like you were saying, Jared Goff. I didn't know about the other quarterback coming in, but Jared Goff did come in and did enough to win with 100. Yeah, it was about 154 passing yards, but that was all he had. But it did seem like that. Cam Akers ended up with 131 rushing yards. Moving forward, that'll be better for them if they can just open up the pass game a little bit, just to keep other defenses from stacking the box and just kind of shutting down Cam Akers. I think they can get pretty deep, but we'll see about that moving forward. I just like I said, I was pretty surprised about them winning.
I understand
it. All right. So the next game we got the Bucks at the Washington Football Team, and they won 31-23. So what were your thoughts on that one?
Well, for full disclosure, I didn't watch this game at all. Not because I didn't want to, just had some other stuff going on this weekend. But the biggest takeaway in retrospect is old Heineke, not 100% sure the pronunciation is right, is pretty legit. Once Alex Smith went down, that cap was making plays all over the field. And then his number one receiver, I'm blanking on his name right now. McLaurin said that he would play with 4 any day. But, yeah, no, I'm not super surprised by the outcome. I mean, honestly, wouldn't have been surprised if the Bucks had put up a few more points and the football team had put up a few less points coming out of the NFC East, where all 4 of them at various points throughout the season just looked like absolute hot garbage. What I will say is that Alex Smith is a damn champion. And Brady posted a meme post-game, or somebody posted a meme about what Brady said to Alex Smith post-games. You're an inspiration to us all, et cetera. Like, just really going hard in on that. And he really is. I mean, the man's playing on one leg and still out there doing it. I'm really impressed by that.
Yeah. I mean, that was impressive. And like you, I wasn't surprised about the outcome. I was surprised that Washington was actually made it this close. I did watch a lot of this game, and basically the Bucks offense. Tom Brady looked like Tom Brady. He was also helped by them gaining 142 rushing yards. And I know if Tom Brady's got a good rushing attack, he's going to do good because having a good rushing attack does open up the passing game. So I think Leonard Fournette finished with like 93 yards or so. But just collectively, they're running back by committee. They got 142 rushing yards. Uh, the the thing though is the Bucks defense looked absolutely awful. I mean, they're letting a former XFL quarterback get 306 passing yards with a touchdown and one rushing touchdown. Uh, if they continue up that play, they won't make it past the next round. I don't see that. I mean, they got the Saints coming up with Drew Brees back, and Drew Brees has kind of got another game under his belt, so if that defense keeps up what they're doing, it is not going to be pretty for them.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And then they're facing a much more potent offense and balanced offense in the Saints this weekend. The defense better come to play. The thing is, I've seen it in them before where they can bring it, but I've also seen Drew Brees and the Saints offense tear them up early on in the season. So that'll be interesting to watch moving forward.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the Ravens at the Titans. So this was another close game. The Ravens ended up winning 20-13. So what were your thoughts on this one?
This one, I was excited to watch this one because of last year when the Titans ended up, knocking out the red hot Ravens and reigning MVP. Titans really got their momentum and hit their stride right there at the end of the season last year. And then it seemed like the Ravens kind of did that this year where they are starting to get hotter and hotter and build momentum towards the playoffs, whereas early on in the season they played a little slow, had some really down games. A lot of it was COVID related, but seemed to be picking up momentum. Titans got up early, and then after that it was all Baltimore. The thing that scares me moving forward for the Ravens is Lamar Jackson, 16 carries for 136 yards. I just don't know how sustainable that is to win a Super Bowl in today's era of football. But, maybe. Also, the Ravens just absolutely stymieing Derrick Henry, which he seemed like an unstoppable force of nature coming on into this game. But yeah, no, I mean, it was a clash of two really good teams. Fun game to watch, but I think that the better team right now won the game. But I think if they played 10 times, that might be a 50-50 split, 5-5.
Yeah, the Ravens defense looked really good. I mean, like you said, they held Derrick Henry, and they only held him to 40 rushing yards. And you're talking about the guy that was the rushing had the rushing trophy this year, held him to just 40 yards, and really made Tannehill pass the ball. And Tannehill just did not have a good game. And like you were talking with the offense. The Ravens offense ended up with 236 rushing yards, but 136 of them were from Lamar Jackson, and a lot of that 136 was from a 50-something yard scamper for a touchdown.
Yeah.
I like you. I don't think that's repeatable. I think for a one game situation, it'll work out, but in the long term, I think better defenses are going to kind of shut that down and make him throw the ball. Because in this game, he only had 179 passing yards, and no touchdowns and an interception. So if they could really make him that one dimension, if they could shut that, him running the ball down, I don't see the Ravens moving far, um, especially against the Bills, who can score points really quickly if they need to. Um, we'll just see how that one plays out.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the Bears at the Saints. So the Saints ended up winning 21-9. This I watched some of this one. It was kind of a snoozer. Honestly, probably the only real snoozer out of last week. So what are your thoughts on the Bears Saints game?
Like you said, I mean, snoozer. What happened was what we already knew was going to happen. The Bears are not a very, very good team. They're a decent team, and the Saints are a pretty damn good team. And it played out on the field. I think that the Saints could have made that score probably closer to 40 if they had wanted to. They didn't really need to. Now, I mean, it started off slow. Bears have a good defense, but there was nothing about the Bears that scared me against the Saints.
Yeah, I mean their offense struggles this year have just been enormous. I mean, going between Trubisky and Nick Foles, and trying to go back and forth between those two. And Trubisky has, he's one of those unknowns. Is he going to be good Trubisky or bad Trubisky? Most of the time, it's bad Trubisky, but every once in a while, he does fuck up and have a good game. This was not this. This was not this game. I mean, Drew Brees looked like Drew Brees. 265 passing yards. The thing I did notice a lot was them spreading the ball out a lot. So they had 10 different players have a reception last week. And the emergence of Deontay Harris, who normally throughout the season, he's mainly just a punt and kick returner. And he kind of does, jet sweeps, things like that. But he got really involved in their offense last week because he had the most receptions. He had 7, and he had 83 yards. And throughout the regular season, he only had 20 receptions coming into the game. So him emerging as kind of that, third, fourth target that when everybody else is covered, this guy seems to be trying to get open. And the Alvin Kamara and the rest of the rushing, Latavius Murray, they looked good as well. They had 123 rushing yards total. So it looks like the Saints offense is really clicking, and the defense looked good, but again, it was the Bears offense, so it's kind of hard to judge how good they can be.
One thing I will say, as far as the Saints defense goes, they shut down David Montgomery, and that's the one part of the Bears offense that has really been working, especially in the later half of the season. And they held him to a very mundane game: 12 carries, 31 yards, averaging 2.6 a carry. I think that really bodes well for the Saints moving forward. But otherwise, yeah, I 100% agree with your assessment.
All right. So we got the last game from the Wildcard Weekend. We got the Browns at the Steelers. So the Browns ended up winning 48 to. Sorry, I have the wrong score on here. I think it was 48 to 30 something. I think it was around a touchdown or so close. But what were your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, 48-37. Yeah, you I think just switch numbers up here on our show notes. Just switch the 7 and 3. 48-37. I thought uh, it, I thought the Steelers were lucky to even be in that game, given that Cleveland exploded for 28-0 in the first quarter. Most points scored in the first quarter in the Super Bowl era, I believe. I feel bad for Big Ben. Saw him on the sidelines with tears rolling down his face. Not that he's the most Super Bowl likable guy in the world, but you understand that he understands his opportunities for championships are running out, and this season at 11-0 looks like it could be their season, and they faltered so hard down the stretch. It really fell apart. Baker Mayfield was a surgeon. He didn't have to do anything super flashy or spectacular. I mean, 263 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, very efficient. Uh, their rushing attack actually not as potent in that game as they really can and have been. Chubb only 18 for 76 and Kareem Hunt 8 for 48. So neither one of them eclipsed 100 yards, but still, 4.2 and 6.0 yards per carry average, respectively. They just get it done. I think that they're about to run up against a behemoth of a team that has been kind of coasting through the regular season in the Chiefs. We'll get to that in a little bit. But as far as them against the Steelers, the Browns just look like the hungrier, sharper team in all 3 phases.
Yes, they really did. And like you said, 28-0 third quarter or first quarter. I watched a little bit of this one, and then I had to go off and do a stream for my other channel. But I did kind of catch towards the end, and was kind of surprised that the Browns actually let the Steelers come back. But like you said, Baker Mayfield looked pretty good. He did his job. He kind of reminded me of that what people used to call AJ McCarron and Greg McElroy at Alabama. He managed the game. Um, he, like you said, 263 yards, pass yards, 3 touchdowns. The rushing attack, yeah, it didn't individually. The stats don't look great, but you're talking they had 127 rush yards total, which moving forward, it will help him out a lot because Baker Mayfield he has been in the league for a couple of years, but still he seems to need that kind of rushing help, and kind of every once in a while have to lean back on that. The defense, they did only give up 52 rushing yards, but considering I know for me, I had James Conner on my fantasy league, and that's kind of one of those things I think that happened to the Steelers. They got that 11-0 start, but their rushing attack pretty much was nothing in the later part of the year, and I think that's what happened to them. Is they can run the ball, and other teams just kind of figured that out. Let's see, that the defense only gave up 52 rushing yards, but they gave up 501 yards passing, and going up against the Chiefs today, who are a passing team, and they have a lot more weapons than the Steelers do. It seems like it's going to be a long day for them tomorrow. So we got somebody, Phoenix Animation, in the chat. So with this channel, will you primarily be covering football, any other sports? Yes, we'll cover other sports, NBA, college basketball, baseball, things like that. It's just right now, football is the big thing going on right now, but we will cover other sports as well moving forward.
Yeah, Phoenix, whatever you want covered, man. We said it in the first episode. We'll reiterate it right here. Just throw anything out there that you want covered, and I mean, I can do some research on it.
Yeah. Um, One of our goals I actually talked about in our first stream is I usually don't watch NBA. I have been watching college basketball a little more as the years go by, but that's one of my goals is to kind of get into the NBA more, having this channel, and will help with that, and baseball as well. So we will be doing other sports. It's just we had the national championship on Monday, and then we have divisional playoffs this week going on. We will get into other things. So the
Yeah,
next,
absolutely. Here coming up soon, there's only 3 weekends of football left. It's just the three biggest really it is the three biggest. If you look at TV ratings, the NFL is king. As much as I also love college football, it's why they don't really compete head to head. Saturdays are for college, Sundays are for the NFL and the regular season, etc. But after those 3 weeks are up, this week, championship, Super Bowl, it's going to be entirely basketball and baseball. And I don't really watch soccer or very much hockey, but if there's an interest for viewers there, then I'm more than willing to start watching. And
I actually tried to watch some hockey yesterday, but it was on the ESPN Plus, and I couldn't watch it. But I was like, oh, hockey's on. Let me watch this and get into this. But I just really don't know much about it, and I honestly would like to. I've always respected hockey because you're talking about guys on ice with skates, and they're out there knocking the hell out of each other, shooting this small rubber puck around. Like, I've always respected hockey, and I just never knew much about it.
Normie, you are 100% right on that. I've always considered hockey the most skillful sport. Skating, pads, the puck is tiny and moving at a million miles an hour. Oh, and let's not forget, these guys are knocking the hell out of each other, flying around on ice. It's absolutely incredible. I'm right there with you. Full respect to hockey. It's also why hockey players get all the women. Like, if you see a hockey player, it doesn't matter what he looks like. He has a hot girl on his arm, period. I mean, it's like gravity or oxygen, It's a law of nature.
The Phoenix Animation says, cool. I'm a huge hockey fan, and I don't see any sports channels really covering it. Definitely an untapped market. I totally understand covering football now. I like football, just thought I'd ask. And he also says, I want to help promote the channel, so wanted to know for tweets. Thank you so much, Phoenix, for helping promote this channel. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
And speaking of Phoenix, he is doing some comic book crowdfunds. He's got 2 out right now. So if anybody wants to catch me on my other comics channel, I talk about his books a lot. I've actually interviewed him before. He's a really nice guy. So I'll put my comic book link in the description later on. So if you're watching the review, you like comic books, head over there, and Phoenix Animation on Twitter as well, and you can get a bunch of information about his crowdfunded comic. So let's move on.
Thank you so much, Phoenix. Yeah, we'll plug you as well anytime, and also thanks for participating in the show.
Yes, we really do appreciate it. So let's move on to NFL Divisional Preview. So the first game, and I know you're going to probably have a lot more on this one, is the Rams at the Packers.
Yeah, this one is it's bad for me as a fan because I kind of think I know the outcome already. But as a fan, I still have hope. That unextinguishable fire that burns within. but the Packers got the bye for a reason. They've been the best team in the NFC. They had a flaw early on in the season in that their defense was average to below average, but they picked it up moving forward. Aaron Rodgers has quietly had his best season of all time, and he's had some pretty damn good seasons.
Yep.
He's probably going to win the MVP this year. He's playing lights out. So it's what is good for viewership. Try and take my bias out of it. Is the number one defense in the Rams, allowing 18.5 points per game this season, is playing the number one offense in the Packers, scoring 31.8 points per game this season. But both of those only got hotter as the season went longer. The Rams in their last 5 games actually got that number down to 14.6 points per game, which is pretty insane. And then the Packers have 1 turnover in their last 6 games. So they have only gotten sharper as the season has moved on. Still excited to see it. Rams are a 6.5-point dog. Vegas has them on a high, and 6.5 points in the NFL, just for anybody who doesn't cover point spreads very much or look at point. That's a big number. An almost touchdown in the NFL. Most NFL lines, even if the game looks fairly obvious, doesn't get much more than 4. That's Vegas telling you, and they're pretty good at their job, that the Packers are going to win this game. And I hate that. But I'm still going to watch at 3:25 today and enjoy every second. Well, maybe not enjoy, eat up every second of it. I don't know if I'll enjoy it, but I'm excited for it. That's all I've got on it.
Gotcha. Yeah, basically that was the same thing. You got the Packers, who have had a tremendous year in offense. Aaron Rodgers having, like you said, a great year. And silently, we really haven't heard much about him. And even though they've won 13 games or so, my thing is those 13 games, a lot of those games are pretty close. I think their defense has kind of lagged behind, but with the Rams having a offense that has lagged behind, I would have to put I would have to go behind the Packers of probably winning this game. But the Packers are at home, and if you looked at last week, the home team was 2-4 last week. So it looks like this year, hometown advantage, there's really not much of an advantage. So we'll just see how this plays out. I think it's going to be closer than what a lot of people are thinking, but I do have the Packers kind of pulling it out. And it really is going to depend on, and this is weird, but it's going to depend on which Jared Goff shows up. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jared Goff in the offense, I think that's going to be the key to the game, is if Jared Goff can move the ball, or at least if the Rams offense can move the ball, because I imagine that the Packers will try actively to take away the run game and then put it on Jared Goff and his still maligned thumb. 100% agree with you there, Sean. Or Normie.
All right. So let's move on. The Ravens at the Bills. What are your initial thoughts on that one?
I think it's going to be a hell of a game. This one Vegas has at the 2.5 number favoring the Bills. I kind of actually lean towards the Ravens winning this game. I don't know why. It's gut feeling. The Bills have been the more balanced team and more explosive team. Stephon Diggs has completely changed what they can do through the air. Josh Allen is much sharper than he was his previous years. He looks like a fully matured NFL quarterback now. At various points throughout the season has been in the MVP conversation. But there's something about this Ravens team right now that makes me think they're out to prove something. And I kind of like them playing the Chiefs in the AFC Championship next week. I think it's going to be very, very tight. I kind of have a lean towards maybe a 27-24 finish for the Ravens with Justin Tucker, the arguable best kicker in NFL history, nailing a last, clock winding down to 0 field goal.
Alrighty, I'm gonna have to disagree with you. The Bills, I think they may have gotten their gut check last week. They aren't as good as stopping the run, but the Ravens are really good at stopping the run, defense wise. But the Bills right now, they really don't have a run game. So I think it is going to be close, but I think it's going to be the Bills that come out on top, just edging them out, and maybe they'll even be on that high to going into the AFC Championship against the Chiefs. So let's.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
Yeah. I don't know. I got the Bills winning the Super Bowl, to be honest. Of course, that was
okay. All right.
I made my bracket.
Food for thought for next week, or our next cast then.
Yeah. Now it'll depend on that was my thing going in. I made a bracket myself going into the game before the games last week, and I put the Bills winning the Super Bowl then. Now, if you were to ask me next week, depending on how these games go through, it may be different. Even if the Bills kind of edge the Ravens, but don't look very good doing it, and depending on how the Chiefs play, it may be a different thing next week.
Yeah, well, that brings us to our next game super flawlessly, because it wouldn't surprise me if the Bills pull out this game against the Ravens, and they obviously have a great shot at winning the Super Bowl. But, there is the king there in Kansas City, and the crown really does not seem to sit atop his head all that heavy. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, I think, have just been a sleeping giant. Also, they suffered one loss this season, and everyone talks like they've had a mundane season. They locked up the AFC 1 seed and the bye, and everyone's like, yeah, sure, but that's just what they're supposed to do. But now is their time. Here it is. Like, I think all the gears are going to flip on. Like, all the lights are going to come on. I have a feeling that the Chiefs put an absolute beat down on the Browns, and then everybody's like, oh yeah, that's that team that won last year and has been on fire since Mahomes has taken over.
Yeah, I have the Chiefs beating the hell out of the Browns. My thing though too, I do understand kind of how the Chiefs have. People would say the Chiefs have kind of had a mundane season. They haven't been really destroying other teams. They have been in some pretty close games, especially here at the end stretch. But I think you're right. I think it's just, and it could possibly be just them not wanting to open up the playbook very well. They know they have enough to win games, and they're saving everything for this playoff run. So we'll just see how it plays out. Like I said, though, I think they have no problem against the Browns.
Yeah, just for a stat correction there, they actually were 14-2, not 15-1. Sorry about that. So, 2-game loss, those pieces of shit.
They're getting to be Alabama fans.
They're completing. They're 50% on third down conversions, and also Travis Kelce just very quietly set the single season record for most receiving yards by a tight end this year. So there are a lot of people who have faded them because they haven't been blowing people out. And I just think that is just too early to do with this team. But yeah, I think me and you might be in agreement on that one.
Yeah. So all right, let's get to our last game tomorrow afternoon, and we got the Bucks at the Saints. So what's your thoughts on that one?
I think this is going to be pure fireworks. First off, it's going to be really cool to see two just absolute shoe-in Hall of Fame first ballot Hall of Famers with Brady and Breeze. Went twice this season, although I'm not positive Breeze was playing in the second game. He might have been injured. That might have been a Taysom Hill game. I'm not positive. But Bucks are 0-2. Couldn't topple the Saints this year. But they also seem to have come on, and Brady looks like Brady of old. He has gotten better and better and better as the season's gone on. Breeze has been a little bit up and down. It seems like age and injury has started to really show up with him. He doesn't seem to have the same zip on the ball, and he looks his age right now. But when it all comes down to it, he still gets the job done. It's an all-time great. No matter how you feel about their teams, or because I personally don't like the Saints. The Rams and Saints kind of have a low-key rivalry, especially after 2018. Nickel Roby-Coleman, the absolute non-pass interference that happened. There's no way that was pass interference. Defenders are allowed to tackle receivers before the ball gets there. Everybody knows.
I was going to say, you're not biased at all.
But and then the Patriots, everybody hated the Patriots and Tom Brady for the longest time. But the more that they just kept doing it, both Brady and Breeze, you just have to respect their game. They do it the right way. So I'm really excited about not just that matchup, though, but these two teams seem to match up really well for the playoffs. The Bucks have more offense. They're incredibly explosive. Brady has a lot of weapons. And then the Saints have one of the best defenses in the league, and then also they can attack you at all levels with their offense. I'm expecting maybe an overtime finish, and I really don't know who I would pick. Vegas is telling you Saints -3, but if I was putting money on it, or if I was putting money on any of these games, I would not touch this one. I think it could go either way.
To be honest, after watching the Bucks last week and watching the Saints, I think you were right about earlier. I think the Saints could have put 40-something points on the Bears. They just didn't need to. I think it was kind of like what we talked about with the Chiefs. Why open up your playbook when you don't need to and have that film for the other team to watch? And both offenses have been pretty good and have the potential to be great. The Bucks defense is just they looked so bad, and maybe they'll step it up this week. Maybe it was they were looking ahead a little bit, but they just did not look good last week. And I think I just don't think they're going to be able to stop the Saints as much as the Saints defense will be able to stop Brady. And I think that it will be their Achilles heel is the Bucks defense. And I don't think it's going to be an overtime finish. I'm looking at like maybe a 14-point win, kind of something like last week. There will definitely be a lot more points than the Saints game last week, but I still see the Saints kind of winning about as much as they did last week.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah. I'm just making notes so that we revisit this next week. No, I totally understand where you're coming from, though. The Bucks defense is a lot more susceptible than the Saints defense this year. I mean, there's a reason why they went 0-2 against the Saints, but they I don't know. I think maybe it's the Tom Brady factor for me.
Yeah, and you never know. He is that. He is that player that can go out there and just put the whole team, offense, defense, and special teams on his back. And if it is close in the towards the end of the game, he can do that, and he can get them riled up. I mean, I watched him do that in the Super Bowl against the Falcons. You know, where they ended up coming back and beating down. What were they down 24-3 or something? 24-0 or something like that. So I
Yeah,
have seen
something
him.
pretty crazy.
He is able to come back and have those games, but I just don't see it happening with the Saints team. I think the Saints are really clicking, and I just don't see it happening. But I could be wrong. I've definitely been wrong before, so we'll just see how it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one thing as far as this game goes that Brady is bad against pressure and the Saints bring pressure, and that will be a huge factor. So, but I think it'll be fun to watch. I think between the Bucks at the Saints and the Ravens at the Bills, which makes sense. Those it's the non number one seed games. Those two will be super fun to watch today and tomorrow night. Uh, I think they lined up the TV schedule perfectly, having Ravens at Bills for the evening game tonight. That way they can get it hot in prime time. I think that was going to be a lot of fun. And then Bucks at Saints tomorrow night in prime time. I think that was going to be a lot of fun. The other two games, magic can happen at any time, but those seem a little bit more closed cases.
Yeah. Well, alrighty. Well, that's all we have for today. And it's getting close to kickoff for the first games, I think, or is it not till 3:00?
Yeah, we're starting at 3 today, so we got about 3 hours of prep time. But I'm going to need all three of them to do my rituals. Pray to my Rams God, right socks. Got to put the right shirt on. Wash my hair just so. Light some incense, etc. It's a whole thing.
Take a deuce, yeah.
Obviously, that too. That's just everyday ritual.
Yeah. Well, alrighty. Well, thank you so much, Phoenix Animation, for listening in today and interacting. We, like I said before, we really do appreciate it. And hopefully we can get some hockey things in. And if you're a huge hockey fan, maybe you can come on and kind of help us through hockey. Because
absolutely. Also, let us know your favorite team. We can specifically start there. As far as hockey goes, I don't watch that much, but I started to get into the Predators myself. So let me know if you care about them at all.
Just let us know. And it's been a fun show, Cunado. We did have some technical difficulties beforehand, but we were able to get a good show. And Phoenix Animation says, yeah, man, good luck on the channel. I'd love to come on the channel. That sounds awesome. We'd love to have you on. And yeah, you got any last words, any last thoughts, Cunado?
Let's enjoy the games today, fellas. Also, once again, thanks so much, Phoenix. And really fun show. Happy to do it with you today, Normie. It was a good one.
It was a good one. And for anybody listening, don't forget to hit the thumbs up if you liked what you hear. If you don't like what you hear, hey, hit that thumbs down. But leave us a comment. Let us know what we need to work on or what things you would want to listen to and hear about. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It does help us out a lot. And Phoenix Animation is a Capitals fan, but he likes the Preds as well.
Noted, Phoenix. Thank you.
Yep, I got that written down in my notes now. So, yeah, everyone have a great football day, and we'll see y'all next time.